Ladies and gentlemen, before we start getting all official with the show, I'd be remiss if we didn't start out discussing the untimely passing of the late great Roddy Piper. Within the last week, we all heard the unfortunate news that he passed away in his sleep due to a heart attack. And I just wanted to take out a little bit of time to pay respect to him and what he meant to the wrestling industry and also what he meant to me as a fan. Piper, to me, was one of those guys that made me wish I was born 10 years earlier so that I could actually live through his heyday in the wrestling industry in real time, because there's just something about that old school quality of authenticity that guys like Hot Rod exuded, and you don't see that in excess today. So you do try to hold on tighter to the icons of that generation. And with that being said, hearing news like this is literally the worst part about being a wrestling fan. Knowing that losing these industry icons isn't out of the ordinary, but at the very same time, you never get used to it. It's never any easier. Just, I believe it was last month, we lost Dusty Rhodes, and now we have Roddy Piper. So I just have to say rest in peace to Piper. Evan, do you have any memories or anything that you wanted to share regarding Hot Rod?
Honestly, for me, Roddy Piper is one of the best heels that's ever existed in wrestling, and I think that his influence has been very evident on a lot of people who have come through the business since, and I second you 100% on having wished that I could have been born 10 years sooner to have seen Piper in that time span of when he was at his the peak of his game. So to me, it's just one of the worst passings that's happened in a long time. I am really devastated by it. I was very, very shocked and surprised. But, you know, I hope that there's quite a bit of bubblegum up in heaven, because Roddy Piper, no question about it, is going to make things a little more rowdy. No doubt about that.
Yeah, if they don't have bubblegum in excess, there will be hell to pay.
No question. So. Yes, so a great heel, a great influence on the business, a great talker, easily one of the greatest on the microphone that I've ever heard. And whenever Piper's Pit was around in the last number of years, it was always a fun segment. I always looked forward to Piper's Pit because he would bring out the best in other wrestlers, I felt.
Yes.
So Roddy Piper is no question a genius when it comes to professional wrestling. He is sorely missed, and may he rest in peace.
And that just shows the amazingness of him and his talent, the fact that he didn't lose a step after decades of being in the wrestling industry, because he could come back and add so much of a compelling feel to a storyline that's going on today, and we've seen that time and time again with him. Every time WWE did one of those old school Raws or retro shows and they had the legends coming back, I kid you not, Roddy Piper was always at the top of my list, because he's one of those people I could sit there and I can listen to him talk all friggin' day, because he's just such a great storyteller, such a great narrator. And one of my favorite moments from him was the Piper's Pit that he did for the WWE Championship match at Survivor Series. I believe it was 2010. It was either 2009 or 2010. It was for Randy Orton versus Wade Barrett, and the stipulation was on if John Cena, with John Cena and his employment with WWE, all of that stuff. After weeks of story between those stars in the wrestling industry, today, Roddy Piper came back and in 5 minutes did more to sell that damn match, sell that show, than everybody else on the roster combined. And if that isn't talent, I don't know what is. The guy never lost his step, still sharp, still witty as ever, and just living in a world without Roddy Piper and that talent that he had, and him as a person too, because I'm pretty sure he's affected tons of people's lives as not Roddy Piper, but the man behind the gimmick, the character. So have to say rest in peace to Roddy Piper.
And WrestleMania never would have been what it was had we not had Roddy Piper.
Yes, main eventer of the very first WrestleMania.
No question about it. Something else. He was out of this world good. Out of this world.
This is PWF Empire Live.
It's the best thing going today.
The best insight and analysis on the hottest topics in the world of wrestling happens here. From storylines and news to rumors and reviews, we've got the action covered from bell to bell. Presented by PWF. Now.
Yeah, so I definitely have to get that intro changed. And it's like all throughout the week I always forget about it. I'm not reminded of it until I sit here and listen to it on the show, and it makes it even like crazier that Charlie's name is the first one mentioned and he hasn't been on the show in months. But what's up, Charlie? Hey, I know he's watching. Thank you guys for tuning in to PWF Empire Live. Jay and Evan here on the panel. We got a lot of stuff to talk about tonight. We have everything that's going on heading into Survivor Series. Got some talk about the God of Violent Retribution making his way back to WWE. And Brock Lesnar is the God of Violent Retribution. Paul Heyman is a damn preacher. And he was in the pulpit on Monday Night Raw. So we'll be talking about that. Also, we have the return of Push Repackage Release. Evan, this will be your first time playing, right? You ready?
Yes. Long anticipation for me to play this game.
Are you sure you're ready? I don't know if you're ready. Like, are you sure? You got to make some tough calls tonight. So.
Yeah, it's a tough call. Trust me. I've spent the day thinking about this off and on. So it's a tough call, but I'm ready. I'm ready for anything. I'm game. Let's do this.
Alrighty then. So we got that to discuss, and we also have some stuff on Dana White. We'll be traveling outside of the ring and entering the octagon a little bit because he's been making some waves in the news, and we'll have to talk about that too. But we're going to go ahead and get this show started with, I was about to say our WWE World Heavyweight Champion, but I'm not claiming his ass anymore. He's not my WWE Champion. And your WWE World Heavyweight Champion, Seth Rollins. You know, if I go ahead and view this objectively, he did have a pretty big night on Monday Night Raw. He delivered a fiery promo where he did not give one iota of a fuck about John Cena's broken nose. He actually had a shirt that I think it said never shuts up on the front and you can't see knee on the back. Clever. I see what you did there. He even went further to challenge John Cena for a winner-takes-all match with the WWE World Heavyweight Championship and the United States Championship on the line at SummerSlam. And he issued an open challenge for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship right there on Monday Night Raw, which led to a match with Neville because he was one of the few members of the WWE roster that fit the criteria of being under 200 pounds and also shorter and 6 foot tall. Now, I don't know about you, Evan, but I was kind of pissed off by that a little bit because I wish they would have announced it in advance because I look at myself, I'm under 200 pounds. I'm nowhere near 6 foot tall. So I'm like, that could have been me. Like, I fit the bill. I could be the WWE World Heavyweight Champion right now. And I'm kind of pissed off by that.
Yeah, I'm actually also under 6 feet and under 200 as well. So I move aside, Jay. It's my time for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, all right? But that aside, though, honestly, I thought what we got out of Rollins here was pretty good. Pretty good promo from Rollins, and the match was excellent quality. No question about that, with a couple of near falls in it that had you jumping out of your seat pretty much.
Not just a couple of the near fall of near falls. When Neville went for that red arrow, he hit Seth Rollins with it, and I guess the story could be told in that moment that he was so excited about possibly winning the WWE World Heavyweight Championship that he hooked Seth Rollins' leg, and he pulled Seth Rollins' leg back so far that Neville was actually the reason why we had a rope break in that moment. And when I tell you guys that was one of the greatest near falls I've ever seen, believe it. Because I was in that moment like, Neville just won the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. I didn't even notice in the foot on the rope until the referee finally called it. And I was like, wow.
Yeah, and the whole crowd's reaction was perfect. So they were all like, 3, what? They all were just like, oh my, oh, okay.
And I love that was a moment. It didn't even deflate the crowd. They went back to, because moments like that where it's like, okay, they fooled us, they tricked us. It didn't work that way. They were so wrapped up in the moment. They were like, oh shit, 1, 2, 3, yeah, one more time. So that was all awesome. That played amazingly.
That was awesome. And you know what I take away from this is, first of all, Neville is proven that he is... I mean, it's not like Neville hadn't already proven this, but to anybody who may have doubted Neville's in-ring ability and overall ability to tell a story in a match, here it was, case in point. But I think the other thing I take away from this, too, was that it actually looked like Neville wanted to win the title. It looked like it didn't piss him off as much as it was like so frustrating for him to have not gotten the 3 count on Rollins. He looked so like, oh, you gotta be kidding me. Like, the look on his face and the way that he was almost like pleading to the referee, like, please, come on, it had to be 3. It just showed me that he cared so much about winning that title, that it meant so much to him in that moment, and I think that was really, really needed. Obviously, there's still a lot of work in terms of giving us a real character with Neville, because he's one of those guys that, as far as I'm concerned, and many, many others are concerned, I think this has been kind of across the board, is we love Neville, but here's the issue. We can't get behind the guy, and more importantly than that, we want to like him, but there's not really any substance to the character, and I want to know more about what Neville really is, So,
you know what? I think I know what his character is, and that's something that we're gonna have to like put an asterisk by and save for another date, because I don't want to make this like part of this conversation. I want this to be a conversation in and of itself, because I've noticed something about Neville. Almost, I wouldn't necessarily say from the very moment that he stepped foot on WWE's main roster, but there is a character there. I just don't know if people are going to like it. So I guess we could save that for next week. But as far as Seth Rollins is concerned, the promo, like I said, it was a very fiery promo. He came out, he let everyone know where exactly he stood, and he handled the fallout of breaking John Cena's nose last week. So you talked a little bit about it, but I want to go more in depth on Seth Rollins' words and him in relation to John Cena right now.
Oh, yes. As far as Seth Rollins goes here, well, to me, I think that him making the match and actually just saying he wants to go all in made me feel like that was more along the lines of the Seth Rollins that I want to see, and I know that you want to see, Jay. I know that maybe that other people might have taken it a different way, but I saw Seth Rollins looking more unafraid, and yeah, sure, he did put those stipulations out there of under 6 feet, under 200 pounds, even though he's barely over 200 and barely over 6 feet himself, but,
you barely just missed the cut.
Yeah, you're almost not even good enough to be in your own title match, but okay. But as far as I'm concerned, also, in that match with Neville, even though he had the, standard upset-looking heel type of demeanor, which is how it should be, he didn't cower away and run away during that match, and I think that was really an important factor, too. He actually fought through the match and did win, and you can say, oh, he escaped with the victory, but to me, it's a hell of a lot better than him, grabbing the title and running away and looking like a chicken shit. He didn't look like a chicken shit in this match or in the promo before. So to me, this was good work from Rollins and continued progress from the week before when he looked really good in the main event against Cena, minus the fact that he tapped out, which was, we save that for another day because we've already talked about it.
No.
Oh, all right.
We're not going to save that for another day. We're going to talk about this shit right
Fine.
now. Because
we can expand on it. Okay.
See, here's the thing. Seth Rollins, he's great on the mic. I'm not going to take that away from him. The guy has made vast improvements. I can see that Toastmasters membership is working out well for him. It did a great thing for me. Shit, it worked for Seth Rollins too. So I say go right along with you, brother. But here's the thing. I do not like the fact that Well, it's so weird, the situation that we're in right now, because Seth Rollins broke John Cena's nose. That was not intended. However, it did happen, so they are going to have to address it. But here's the thing. WWE, for whatever reason, they made it seem as if that's the only thing that happened last week on Raw. So we're supposed to sit here and forget the fact, like, it's not like the match ended and then Seth Rollins broke John Cena's nose. No, the match was in progress. Seth Rollins broke John Cena's nose. Then what happened after that? John Cena beat the brakes off of his ass. John Cena put him in the STF, and Seth Rollins tapped out. John Cena did all of that with the broken nose. For Seth Rollins to act as if that was his great big accomplishment, and him to come out on Raw and act so bold because of that, it didn't resonate with me, because I'm sitting there and I'm like, why is he not more pissed off about the fact that he tapped out to John Cena? And I understand the whole thing about Seth Rollins being like, his character is a little delusional, but we need to start calling that shit out. Like, I don't like the fact that we have, like, announcers who just play right along with what he does. And I would understand if it was just JBL, but it's everyone. Like, no one is going to sit there and say, well, yeah, you broke his nose, but he kicked your ass and pinned you, the WWE World Heavyweight Champion, with that same broken nose. So that's why I said I hoped that John Cena would be that key to unlock Seth Rollins, but from what I saw from that promo on Raw, that wasn't it. Wasn't it at all.
Yeah, and obviously I think the main point of that whole thing, and I know you'll second me on this, is to make John Cena look like he's an underdog who's injured, and oh no, there's no way he's going to have a hard time winning the championship at SummerSlam, and he's going to have to overcome the odds of a guy that he made tap out with a broken nose. You know, again, that's the logic that we're looking at here. Someone in the chat already said, you know, this is WWE logic, so it's kind of what you
SmackDown to see the
I'm sorry.
That's good old Tyler.
Okay. Well, I did actually see parts of the past SmackDown, and Rollins did, you know, try to worm his way out of the whole tapping out to Cena, but there is no way to really worm out of that on the microphone, because what happened. I wish that what had taken place was, with the broken nose, I wish they'd almost just called the damn audible and done something different. Have a no contest type of finish. Cena tries to continue but ultimately can't. Make it look like Superman finally has reached a point where some kryptonite has gotten in his way. You know, like something is actually stopping Cena. And yeah, sure, it's a broken nose. It's not like a broken arm or something that's like visibly worse. But a broken nose can be a really, really terrible injury. And obviously, like we gave credit to Cena last week, we still are obviously going to give Cena credit for getting through a match in that situation. But I think they could have really gone with this and rolled with this. But I mean, sometimes you have to call those audibles mid-match and do things that aren't expected. So I think they could have gone off of the course of the finish of Cena winning clean via STF, even though, to me, honestly, that never should have been the idea for that match anyway, because your WWE champion just tapped out to the United States champion, and there's no reason for me to believe that Seth Rollins would beat Cena at SummerSlam anyway. But I will still say that ultimately what I take away from this particular week of Raw is a promo where Rollins held his own, a match where Rollins held his own, and it was better than what we've been seeing from Rollins. So I will take it as a positive direction for things and a hot start to Raw, but I do agree there are holes in the story, but I guess that's kind of just what we've come to expect at this point.
You know what? Nope. This is... Like, I'm forced to give WWE and Seth Rollins a big-ass F for this, because the way that I see it, he's in a hole, and it's an even deeper hole. Like, I completely agree with you that an audible should have been called. Like, I'm not going to hold that too much against WWE, because you never know what's going through someone's mind in a situation like that. Like, you can't plan for emergency situations like that, but if that was the case, like, if you wanted to go with John Cena tapping out Seth Rollins, then you kind of have to mold the story to fit what we saw on TV. Like, you can't go in one direction here and then try to convince us of some shit that we know is not true. Because like I said earlier, the way that they made it seem is as if the match ended, then he broke his nose. No, you broke his nose during the damn match, and he still beat you. So, if John Cena can win in a situation like that, what's stopping him from taking a few weeks off and doing it again at SummerSlam? So that's the big question that I have here. And how is WWE going to convince me that Seth Rollins has a chance?
I don't know if there's any way possible to do that at this point. To be
I don't even know
honest.
if they intend to do that.
Yeah, maybe that's not the idea. Maybe they just want Cena to just look like, he overcame another injury, and I really think that might be the ultimate goal of their story here. So, yeah, I guess we'll delve more into it as we get closer to SummerSlam.
And of course, if you guys would like to chime in on your WWE World Heavyweight Champion, not mine, so just wanted to state that, or any other topic that we discuss on the show, you're more than welcome to do so on Twitter with the hashtag PWFEmpire. You could also go on Twitter with the hashtag PWFEmpire and suggest topics that you'd like for us to discuss on the show. For example, that's exactly what John did on Twitter at the username Jay Kyleton. He wants to know what Raw could learn from a show like NXT that has surpassed it in quality. For me, one of NXT's biggest assets and one of Raw's biggest downfalls is the optimization of TV time. With Raw, we frequently fall into the trap of filler, where you can tell that the booking team was like, okay, let's throw this match on TV just so we can kill some time. On the other hand, when it comes to NXT, whether it be enhancing someone's character or continuing to build a feud, you get the sense that nearly everything that happens on NXT TV actually has a purpose to it. Plus, they don't do stupid crap just for the sake of shocking people. Sometimes the fans just want a competent story to be told, and not ones that's overly complicated, while at the very same time not insulting to our intelligence as the audience. And thankfully, the creative team in NXT kind of like allows room for the talent to do that. So those are a few things that Monday Night Raw could take from NXT. You have any suggestions or things that you see down in NXT that you would like to be brought up to the main roster?
One I would say is the, I guess we'll use the word optimization again, of gimmicks that aren't completely watered down and changed. They go from being great in NXT to being crap on the regular TV shows. Like the Ascension, we're a great tag team in NXT, and they are the worst team in WWE's regular. Like, there is no question.
This is true.
Los Matadores are 100 times better, and that is saying so much because they are a crappy tag team too, not a crappy talent team. Both teams have talent. It's the gimmicks with them that suck, but Ascension's gimmick in NXT was freaking great. So utilize the gimmicks that you create in NXT and bring them to the forefront in WWE. Expand on those characters. And I see some of it with Kevin Owens. I see some of it with some of the divas. But not enough. I want to see more. Just keep, do what you're doing. And you almost get worried for guys like Finn Balor when they're up on the main roster. Are good things going to happen, or is it going to be worse for them to be on the main roster? That's not what we should be worrying about.
Good things better happen when it comes to Finn Balor. Good things better happen. Okay?
Yeah, that's how I feel, and it shouldn't be a concern. We shouldn't be able to make a joke that it's worse to be on the main roster than it is to be in the developmental territory. So that really needs to be addressed.
All right, thank you, John, for using the hashtag PWFEmpire on Twitter, and to whom it may concern, if you want to chat with the PWF Empire live hosts and also other viewers who are checking out the show, make sure to subscribe to youtube.com/PWFEmpire and catch live Wednesdays at 9 p.m. Eastern. So, we're going to go ahead and move on now. Quick note. Congratulations to Ronda Rousey for successfully defending her UFC Bantamweight Championship over the weekend. But as great as that was, she wasn't the only UFC personality to make news in the last few days. It seemed as if the entire wrestling world was united in support of her, and they kept that unity train going when it came time to take the piss out of UFC President Dana White. He was in the news recently, and I want to make sure I get these comments correctly. I don't want to misquote Dana White. So you had a user on Twitter respond to, or actually send a tweet out to Dana White. I wish I could watch the Rousey fight tomorrow night. Vince got you beat there. At Dana White. Our pay-per-views are only $9.99. Dana White responds back with, I hear you, bro, but fake shit should be $9.99. And with these words, the gates of hell opened up, and all of the all of the demons came for Dana White, right along with pretty much the entire wrestling industry. There was unity from TNA to WWE to people from the indies, just everyone with this outrage directed at Dana White for referring to professional wrestling as fake shit. So, I want to do a little twist to this. I don't want to buy or sell Dana White's comments because we know that's bullshit. What I want to do is propose to you, Evan, and also the PWF Empire Live audience, do you buy or sell the outrage directed at Dana White for his negative tweets towards the wrestling industry?
I've seen mixed reaction on this entire thing, and it's actually very interesting to me because I would think that everyone would just be in support of the wrestlers, you know, yada, yada, yada. But I've seen a lot of people actually be like, oh, the wrestlers are just looking like crybabies and complainers and everything like that. So but overall, obviously on the comments, Dana White really didn't think before saying those things. He really, really was not thinking when he said that stuff, because the backlash that's going to come out of that is just ridiculous. It doesn't mean that it's going to hurt UFC necessarily. It might hurt the chances of wrestlers watching UFC. But, you know, as a couple of people pointed out, a couple of the comments pointed out, you know, WWE Pro Wrestling laid a foundation for UFC, and I mean,
in more ways than one.
Yeah, and I can't help but support what the wrestlers say. I mean, I think some of them overreacted, and some of them just were being like attention seekers in what they were saying. They just wanted to get a bunch of retweets and favorites because of what they said, but some of them made absolutely great and valid points, and I think it's good to defend your industry. If you are, you know, busting your ass in professional wrestling, you have every right to defend that industry, so I buy it.
I'm going to go ahead and buy it as well. I really like the unity, and as far as Dana White is concerned, he's a big-ass hypocrite, because you talked about how the wrestling industry laid the foundation for UFC. I believe they were the owners of UFC, or some executives in the company. Their last names are Zuffa, I think. But whoever it was, hell, I think Dana White has even said as much himself. They pretty much took the business model from WWE and attributed it to UFC, talking about how WWE uses Monday Night Raw, Friday Night SmackDown, or Thursday Night SmackDown. Hell, I don't even know what day the show is on. Whatever. But yeah, basically
doesn't really matter, right?
Yeah, no, that's beside the point. So the thing, they basically took the model of using free TV to promote pay-per-views and things like that. And I mean, do we have to sit here and mention Brock Lesnar? Do we have to mention the fact that Brock Lesnar is the biggest draw in UFC history? He still holds the record for the highest buy rate that the company has ever seen. Then you have CM Punk. I'm pretty sure they threw a lot of money at his ass, and I'm pretty sure they have high expectations for him because of the fans of the industry that you just insulted. And then you want to talk about insult. Let's go to the opposite end of insult. Talk about respect. Who was the very first person that Ronda Rousey mentioned after she competed in her match a few days ago? She mentioned Roddy Piper and thanked him for giving her that name, or at least allowing her, you know, giving her permission to use it. And she talked about how much of an inspiration that he was to her. And it's just, it was completely unnecessary for him to say that stuff. And it's very clear, like, if you listen to the comments that were made that he responded to in the first place, it was a legitimate question. People are like, it was a legitimate concern. Somebody is saying, basically, your shit costs too much. Help a brother out. Like, what are you going to do about this? And rather than him legitimately answer that question as a businessman, he chose to insult the wrestling industry. And yeah, like, what the fuck was the purpose of that? Maybe it's because he didn't have an answer for why their pay-per-views cost $60 and WWE's cost $9.99. But go ahead.
You know what's another funny thing? I happened to scroll a little further down on his on Dana White's Twitter page that day when I was looking, right after that whole thing had started, and he had just tweeted out a picture the day before talking about Roddy Piper and saying "Rest in peace, Hot Rod," and the next day he says it's fake shit. So, I mean, talk about disrespect, and hypocrisy. I mean, come on. One day you're saying rest in peace Roddy Piper and paying respect to, wrestling legend. The next day you're calling it fake shit. I mean, what? How hypocritical can you be?
Out of all of the comments that I read from everyone, this one pretty much summed up my thoughts perfectly, and this is from Austin Aries. He tweeted out, "Comparing pro wrestling to combat sports is silly. It's apples to oranges. Just don't call my apples a fake food. We all pay a real price." And that last point there, we all pay a real price, that is the greatest point that ever could be made, because you want to talk about how wrestling is fake shit. Those bumps are real. Sometimes people do get hurt, and those injuries are real. They're not fake. Shit, wrestling is scripted. Yes, no one is ever going to deny that in the year 2015, but I just think that it's very dismissive of the industry and people who've, broken bones and cried tears and shed blood literally for this industry. So I say shame on Dana White. Shame on you.
Yeah, I mean, just go in that ring and run the ropes 15 times. Tell me if you're not winded and your ass doesn't hurt from the rope burn. Try doing a blow-up drill, taking bumps, any of that stuff. It is painful stuff. I know from experience. I've taken them before. I've been in a ring before. It's crazy stuff, It's very, very, very taxing on your body and arguably harder than anything else in terms of sports. So it's crazy, man. To call it fake is just, not only is it dismissive, but it's just flat out wrong.
Alrighty, we're going to go ahead and move on now to discuss Paul Heyman and Brock Lesnar. I talked about this a little earlier on in the show. If Brock Lesnar is the god of violent retribution, then Paul Heyman is the preacher in the pulpit proselytizing the religion of Brock. He came out and he did what a preacher does, or what do you call the things? And I don't. What are the people in Catholic churches, reverends or pastors, or I was about to say whatever the hell they are, but I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, no, not a good combo.
But yeah, you guys know what I'm talking about. Priest. There we go. So he went out there and he actually was serving in the role of a priest, and he gave the Undertaker his last rites. He said that pretty much at SummerSlam his career is going to be over, and this serves as follow-up to the War of the Worlds between Brock Lesnar and the Undertaker. So with Paul Heyman going out there and proselytizing Brock, do you buy or sell the follow-up that we got with these two guys on Raw?
I'm mixed on this one, because honestly Heyman's promo was really solid, as always. Very, very good. But Brock Lesnar's appearance was wasted as far as I'm concerned. He comes out, throws some steel steps, stands on them, looks like a badass, and then nothing comes of that. I feel like at least could have, even without Undertaker appearing, could have had the lights go out, Lesnar, look all confused, Heyman, disappears to give you the illusion that Taker took him away or something. Give me something with Taker there if you're going to have Lesnar there. Otherwise, you could have just had Heyman come out, cut that promo. Lesnar didn't really make a damn difference otherwise, besides, looking tough with some steel steps. So, to me, I sell Brock Lesnar's appearance, but buy Paul Heyman's promo.
See, for me, when you were just sitting there and you were talking about all that stuff, and you were like, Paul Heyman is out there talking, and Brock Lesnar is standing there looking like a badass, I'm like, that's enough for me. That is enough, because that partnership of Paul Heyman and Brock Lesnar, it's something about them that they make the other infinitely better. It's one thing to hear Paul Heyman talk, but it's another thing when Brock Lesnar is basically standing there and he is the image. Brock Lesnar is the movie, and Paul Heyman, he's a score, and they go together so perfectly well. So I say, I'm buying the hell out of this. And some of the things that I liked about Paul Heyman's promo, what was when he called the Undertaker a bitch. Like, I was honestly taken aback because I did not expect that at all. I had to go like, whoa, like, did he actually say that? Because you don't get that feeling in Undertaker feuds very often or at all, because 9 times out of 10 when it comes to the Undertaker, the trope that WWE goes for is his opponents being intimidated by him or fearful of him, and even if they're not intimidated or fearful, they still operate on a level of respect for the Undertaker. But in Paul Heyman and Brock Lesnar, they're like, fuck respect. You picked a fight with us, bitch, and you're going to get beat down at SummerSlam. And what did he say? He said the match that's too big for WrestleMania. If that's not a statement, then I don't know what is. I was just sitting there in amazement of Paul Heyman.
Yeah, he really sold the match extremely well. That's why, again, I buy Paul Heyman. Everything Paul Heyman had to say, I can't help but buy. And not only that, but also mentioning that it wasn't the rematch of the decade. It wasn't the rematch of the century. This is the rematch. He went down the whole line. Even as much as, like, I may be mixed on this whole match and the entire redemption angle and don't want it and whatever, he's still doing a great job of selling that match as something that is must-see. He makes it feel like it's must-see by the way that he speaks, and that is crazy because not very many people can do that so effectively as Paul Heyman can. So no question, that was an amazing promo on Heyman's part. Even if it is and many have said that it was repetitive of other things, but I like that he kind of goes down the same path a lot with what he has to say. He makes his statement, and he's not afraid to make that statement over and over again because nothing would prove that statement incorrect from Paul Heyman. Everything he has to say, like, as much as, I may not have loved the way that the streak ended, the way it was ended by Lesnar and everything, and the match itself and all that other good stuff, you can't help but admit that when Paul Heyman kept saying, my client ended the Undertaker's undefeated streak at WrestleMania over and over again, you couldn't help but kind of crack a smile and be like, man, this guy is just amazing at what he's doing.
I will say one thing, though, that kind of like threw me off, and this was almost enough to sell the entire thing. When Paul Heyman was like, Undertaker called Vince McMahon, like, I don't know, maybe it's just me, and I'll fully admit to being nitpicky about stuff like that, but when I look at the Undertaker, there's a certain type of mysticism about the Undertaker. I don't want to picture the Undertaker talking on a goddamn phone. Like, I don't want to picture the Undertaker, picking up his iPhone, hitting up Siri and saying, call Vince. Like, I don't want to picture that. Like, maybe he could have left that part out, but other than that, good stuff from Paul Heyman. Next up, we are going to discuss 2 of the rising stars in WWE. These are Cesaro and Kevin Owens. These 2 were guests on MizTV on Monday Night Raw. Miz started it out giving a shout out to Roddy Piper and the Piper's Pit, saying that shows like that wouldn't exist were it not for the originator of the format. So we got through all of that, and we got a tease of a swing on Kevin Owens from Cesaro. Those guys mixed it up a little bit physically and a lot verbally. So we all talked about how we were anticipating a feud between those 2. Now that we see the thing is rolling and rolling and rolling on, do you buy or sell this one segment that we saw on Monday Night Raw between Cesaro and Kevin Owens?
I absolutely buy this segment. To me, it could have gone down as segment of the night because it actually did the most for a feud. Well, obviously, the best piece of the night was the tribute to Roddy Piper because it was so well executed on WWE's part. But in terms of like storylines that we're going for SummerSlam, this was the best segment in terms of building up a match because you get Cesaro and Owens in the ring. I think Cesaro really presented himself well. He carried himself well as a babyface here. And I think Kevin Owens on the mic was excellent here, saying, I've accomplished more in 3 months than you have in 3 years. And the intensity was good. Miz's facials in the background were freaking awesome. Like, Miz was into what they were saying. There was heat
with
between the two
old
guys.
Instigating ass. Just sitting there stirring that pot.
Yep. And honestly, I've been very mixed on MizTV. For the most part, MizTV to me has been not that great because a lot of the segments haven't really gone anywhere out of it. Mm-hmm. This was excellent. MizTV. This was the best MizTV segment I've seen. I know that much. And honestly, it built up a feud, which in my opinion could be the match, the show stealer match at SummerSlam in Kevin Owens versus Cesaro. And I think everybody played their roles very well. So bye.
Yeah, I'm buying this too. One concern, it was actually the biggest concern for this feud between Cesaro and Kevin Owens. I did not want these two guys to become just another two guys on the roster, because WWE is a company full of dull-ass mid-carders. I'm going to go ahead and call a spade a spade. You don't have too many people that stand out. And even with Kevin Owens exiting the feud with John Cena, I was hoping that they found something for that guy to keep that spark going, to keep that feeling going, that every time you saw Kevin Owens on TV, you might have to lean a little bit closer and pay a little bit more attention, because this guy is a real deal and he's attached to something important. That's something that they needed to continue with Kevin Owens, and that's something that they needed to start up with Cesaro. And this segment between these two guys, it gave me a little bit of faith to ease those fears. So I'll say I'm buying it. And what they're doing with Cesaro, I think it's so great, because they continue to add layers to this guy's character. It's one thing for the crowd to like someone, but when he has the backing from creative, it brings the entire picture together. It actually starts the building blocks to that could possibly lead somewhere of substance down the line. And I see that happening for Cesaro right now. Last week, he was a valiant guy. He came out there and he saved Randy Orton. This week, he was pretty much putting himself among the fans and speaking up in support of wrestling and speaking up in support of competition and things like that. And that's one thing where he didn't have to really pander to the fans or kiss ass or anything like that, but he was pretty much letting them know that I'm on board with you, like we are one and the same. And I thought that worked so well. I think he's doing a great job and slowly evolving as a complete babyface. And yeah, this was a great showcase for Kevin Owens and especially Cesaro, this MizTV segment. Now, we're going to go ahead and discuss John Cena. So, I noticed on Monday Night Raw, the crowd, or should I say the knuckle draggers, the mouth-breathing assholes that were in the crowd, they were chanting, "Thank you, Rollins, for him breaking John Cena's nose last week." And I've noticed it's a lot less extreme than, you know, the knuckle draggers in the audience on Raw, but I have noticed there's kind of been a little reversal of the trend of liking John Cena. I think he's done a lot of great things in the year 2015 to kind of repair his image to a lot of people that didn't like him, but I feel as if with that moment of him submitting Kevin Owens at the last pay-per-view, we're starting to go back on that, and people are starting to jump off the John Cena bandwagon, and now we're at a point where people are outraged. They're up in arms that he could possibly be the number one contender for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, and not only that, but maybe even walk out of SummerSlam as a double champion. So, with all of that being said, do you buy or sell the concern among certain segments of the fan population that are anti-John Cena moving back to WWE's main event scene?
Okay, so am I buying or selling the fans who are jumping off the train, so to speak?
Yeah.
Okay, then I agree with that, and I will buy into their concerns, because after years and years of the same old, I can't blame anybody for getting concerned. It's been shoved down our throats. We've been given the same stuff, and I agree 100% that John Cena has had some really good matches this year, and his time in the mid-card has been not only very necessary, but has been excellent for guys who have worked with him. Not only have they benefited from it, but he has as well. So it's been a really a win-win situation with him being the U.S. champion. But the goal of that U.S. title run, the end goal should have been to put somebody over, whether it's Kevin Owens, Cesaro, whatever. The end goal of that U.S. title run of John Cena should have been to give someone else a big, huge victory and therefore also build up the belt in the process, which they have done. But I would really like to see someone have gotten a big opportunity as a result. Now, having him versus Rollins for a title versus title, you have to think Cena's going to win. Again, Cena did just make Rollins tap out a couple of weeks ago. There's no reason for me to believe, with a broken nose, there's no reason for me to believe that Rollins can beat him. With the broken nose, yes. I had to throw that one in there because it's like, if Cena's crippled and could beat you clean, I don't see why, a few weeks after recovering from surgery, he can't.
Hell, John Cena has gotten into car accidents and made it to Monday Night Raw and kicked ass. Like, this guy's a mutant. He really is.
Yeah. So I don't blame anybody who's getting, who's not happy about this, because I sure as hell am not either. Not one bit.
I am going to go ahead and sell the outrage among fans, because when I look at John Cena in the year 2015, John Cena is building up a fucking awesome resume. And I'm just going to put it like this. We are going to hear a lot more about John Cena come the end of 2015. If you've been a regular viewer of PWF Empire over these last few years, you know we do something at the end of the year. And I'm just putting it like that. John Cena, you're going to hear a lot more from that guy, so stay tuned for that. But here's the thing. I look at John Cena, and I understand the thing about John Cena looking to save the United States Championship and put someone over. I say that WWE must have gotten in their mind that they needed John Cena elsewhere. He would be more useful being back in the main event scene. And when I look over the landscape of WWE right now, and I look at who could possibly be a legitimate contender to Seth Rollins, who could possibly take that championship from Seth Rollins, and to be quite honest, I only have two names on that list: Randy Orton and John Cena. And with Randy Orton, it's simply because his name is Randy Orton. He's a 12-time world champion, has shit to do with WWE building him up. And John Cena, he's been doing some great things. He's been winning a lot of matches. So, yeah, at this point, really, the only person that's been built up to be a contender to the world championship, outside of Brock Lesnar, of course, is John Cena. And I think that a lot of people are placing the failures of WWE creative, and they're basically placing those failures on John Cena's shoulders and making them become his burden. I don't think that WWE not building up stars for that main event scene is John Cena's problem. That's a problem of creative. I just think that John Cena is like the what's the word that I'm looking? He's the figurehead of the movement. He's like the mascot of it, and people are choosing to take it out on him. But I think that the WWE World Heavyweight Championship needs John Cena. So I'm going to sell the outrage from fans and say that if the next title reign is John Cena's, I say bring it the hell on. I'm ready for it.
Well, at this point, he's the only one who's fit for it, so, I mean, it certainly makes sense. I can't lie to you. I see exactly what you're saying. Now, in terms of some of the outrage, like, blaming this whole problem on John Cena, I think, is a bit overdoing it. I more or less am talking about the outrage of Cena, the prospect of Cena being champion once more. That's more or less where I'm looking at it from.
There we go. Some JJJ in the chat, scapegoat. That was the word I was looking for. But, yeah, the thing is with John Cena, that's why I titled this episode Cena Derangement Syndrome, because there's a lot of shit that goes on with John Cena and the people who hate him that I just don't understand. The same crowd that was chanting, well, not necessarily the same crowd, but just comparing the crowds from Monday Night Raw, you have the guys on Monday chanting, "Thank you, Rollins," as if giving us a break from John Cena from breaking his nose is a good thing. When I sit here and I ask the question, when's the last time we've seen a John Cena match that didn't get a "This is awesome" chant? The guy has been busting his ass in the ring almost all year long. He's had the best year as far as an in-ring perspective in his entire career. The guy's resurrected the United States Championship, been putting on great match after great match, and that's not enough? Like, what the fuck do you want from the guy? Like, I sit here and I'm like, what is it? What?
Yeah,
that's why it's, I can't do anything but call it Cena Derangement syndrome, because I don't even see a reason why.
Yeah, after all those years of the same stuff, I think that's just where people kind of have grown so tired. But I think a lot of people kind of just jump on that bandwagon because there's already a good amount of hate for John Cena, that a lot of people don't even organically dislike John Cena. They just dislike him because more people dislike him than like him. So it's really annoying to see that a lot of people who don't really like John Cena don't like him because of that. And honestly, I am damn tired of the repetitiveness too, just like most of us are. But again, you can't disagree with the facts, which is, well, I mean, I guess it is opinion, but I don't see how you can't think this isn't the best year of John Cena's in-ring career. I mean, he's had really good matches, and it's been great to see him in the mid-card, and that's why it's been so refreshing. So I do buy it in terms of, people giving me the right overall perspective on things, in terms of feeling that it's annoying to see him become 16-time champion, whatever. But when it comes to sitting there and going crazy about John Cena being the only reason why, WWE's product isn't as good as it is today, other guys don't get the push because of John Cena. No, it's because of creative. You can't blame someone who is not in creative control for the reason why wrestlers don't get pushed. It's just annoying that creative always has John Cena go over those guys. So that's where it gets really, really frustrating. So yeah, some of the outrage I can completely buy into, and that's why I'll overall just go ahead and buy the simple. But the overreactors need to settle the fuck down.
See, I want to go back to something that you said when you talked about him being in the mid-card, that being so refreshing. Like, I could understand from that perspective, because if someone out there wants to say that, John Cena has been refreshing and he's been different and he's felt new because he's been out of the main event scene, then I could possibly understand that. Because basically what that's saying is that if he works with different people at a different level, you get a different John Cena. But if he goes back to that main event scene, that he could possibly retread and go back to the same John Cena that we've seen so much over the last few years. And that definitely is a concern of mine too. But shit, I guess we got enough concern to go around for everybody. If John Cena wins, we got issues there. Seth Rollins win and he continues his bitch assness. Like, a lot of issues to go around. So I don't know which one wins.
That's
I guess
the word
I'll
of the
take the lesser of two evils, whichever one.
That's the word of the week, bitch assness.
Alrighty, guys. With all that's going on in the Divas Revolution, what better way to show that we're champions of women's wrestling here on PWF Empire Live than to force everyone to unnecessarily fire one of the newest ladies on the roster? I'm quite sure there's probably a better way, but this way is kind of fun. So we're actually going to engage in that right now as we gear up for another round of Push, Repackage, Release. If you'd like to play along, here are the rules. Based off of their current characters, you'll be tasked with assigning 3 selected wrestlers a status of either Push, Repackage, or Release. 3 different wrestlers, 3 different status levels to choose from. You do the math. Explain why your Push would be your choice to be one of the top stars in your promotion right now, why the wrestler who you'd repackage needs work or why they're worth saving, and why the Release just didn't make the cut. This edition of Push, Repackage, Release will feature the holy trinity of the NXT Women's Division and big pieces to the puzzle that is the main roster's recent Divas Revolution. The daughter of the legendary Ric Flair, Charlotte, the last kicker, Becky Lynch, and the current NXT Women's Champion, Sasha Banks. Evan, in your very first edition of Push, Repackage, Release, I would love to know what it is that you are going to do with Charlotte, Becky Lynch, and Sasha Banks.
It is extremely tough to know what to do with these three because they're all great and they're all talented women. But I have come to, with much time and research and with all my efforts, I have come to the conclusion that I would push. Let's push Sasha Banks because I think overall she has. Now, do you want me to just go push, just say all three, or just explain each one, or?
Break it down.
All right. Let's break it down. And then I'm thinking about DX. All right, Sasha Banks. We'll get the. Yeah, I'm like, break it down. All right, let's do this. Yeah, all right. So for Sasha Banks, we've got a push because I think that she overall has the best character right now, right here, with in terms of in-ring skill, good entrance. Great presence about her, solid talker. I just think Sasha Banks exemplifies everything WWE needs right now in women's wrestling in terms of, a character right here and right now. Now, as far as repackage goes, I think Charlotte could benefit from the repackage, which is going to mean Becky Lynch gets fired, but we'll get there in a second. Charlotte, I think, can use the repackage because I think that, honestly, they kind of talk about her being Ric Flair's daughter a little more than I think is necessary. I think Charlotte can be a big star on her own. She's a great athlete and honestly is incredible in the ring. I think that referencing the fact that Ric Flair's your dad every now and then is one thing, but the way that, she's wooing, it doesn't sound even like good to me. It just sounds like
she
kind of
doesn't
annoying.
have that flair,
Yeah, really, she doesn't. And honestly, I don't think she needs to completely benefit off of her father's name because a lot of other, Randy Orton, Bob Orton was like, okay, that was his dad and whatever, and they talked about it and whatnot. But Randy Orton was known as a freaking legend killer. He wasn't known as Bob Orton's kid, but I know it's a woman here and it's a daughter instead, and obviously everything has to be way different according to WWE. But with this whole Diva Revolution, if you want to show us it's a revolution, you want to make things new and different, then why not have Charlotte be somebody who is, yes, Ric Flair's daughter, but isn't known as that. And even changing her submission, not needing to be the figure 8. Now, I just think that they're trying to make too much noise about her being Ric Flair's daughter. However, she's so damn talented, I don't think she should, and I really don't think she should be released from the company. Now to get to the release, releasing Becky Lynch isn't exactly an easy thing to do. I think she's immensely talented, very interesting in terms of the fact that she has a different type of background, and obviously her accent's pretty damn cool, and she's good in the ring too. Again, all three of these women are, and again has a good way that she carries herself. I really think Becky Lynch has a lot to offer, but out of these three, she just comes up short compared to the other two. And I know that sounds weird to some because some are huge Becky Lynch fans. Our former co-host Charlie was obviously one. So if he's watching this, he's probably like, "Fuck off! You can't say that." but compared to Sasha, who I think offers everything, and Charlotte, who can offer a whole lot with a repackage, unfortunately, Becky, you don't make the cut out of the three.
So I'm going to go ahead and kick this thing off with the very easy pick of pushing the entire hell out of the boss, Miss Sasha Banks. I think the WWE over these last few years, over this last generation, they've infiltrated our minds and told us that you have to view women in wrestling differently than you view the men. But here's what I'm going to say with Sasha Banks. I think she's one of the brightest shining stars in WWE, male or female, period. She has so much potential to be a breakout superstar, and not even just that. I look at what she's done down in NXT, how she made her way up to being the NXT Women's Champion, and the work that she's done in NXT. I said this months ago that I believe that was enough to possibly warrant her being in contention for Superstar of the Year, breaking out of that mold of, we have to give her a special award that's only for women. She's busted her ass to earn the right to be in competition with everyone as one of the best in the business. And I am really hoping that this Divas Revolution works, if not for anything else, for Sasha Banks, because we really need a strong Divas division that allows a talent like her to grow and prosper in WWE, because she has the character, she has the attitude, she has the mic skills, she has the in-ring acumen, just everything working together to and also the it factor, and it just makes her the total package. Like I said, one of the brightest shining stars in WWE, male or female. So I am pushing the hell out of Sasha Banks. Now, as far as the repackage goes, Becky Lynch and Becky Lynch and Charlotte, very talented. I love both girls, but one has to go away and the other one, they stay. I'm going to take a different approach than you did, Evan. I am going to say I am repackaging Sasha Banks, so I'm making the same pick. Why do I keep saying Sasha Banks? See, that just shows how obsessed I am with her. But
I know, it's hard not to be.
I am repackaging Charlotte, and I really don't know what I want to make her into, but I do have to say, though, that the biggest thing that gives her the repackage and gives Becky Lynch the release is the fact that she is Ric Flair's daughter. Because I think that WWE can do a whole hell of a lot with that. Because when I look at the two standing side by side and I compare the two, Becky Lynch is a much better in-ring competitor. She's much more technical than Charlotte is. I think that with Charlotte, when we see regular old Charlotte, to be quite honest, she's not that impressive. But I don't know what it is, what flip she switches on. When she gets into those NXT Women's Championship matches, every single one of them has been amazing. Whether you're talking about the ones with Sasha Banks, you're talking about the Fatal 4-Way, you're talking about the one with Natalya. Every single time she gets to that big stage, she calls on some type of spirit to carry her through. She's amazing in those matches, but she's not that polished in regular old Charlotte matches. And maybe that's something that we could possibly work with. But yeah, the fact that she is Ric Flair's daughter, there's a whole hell of a lot that you can do with that. So I think that that gives her the edge over Becky Lynch. And unfortunately, she has to be the one to go. So, yeah. But I guess that's it for us. If you guys want to play along, push, repackage, release, you pretty much know what the rules are, and you have your wrestlers to choose from. Sasha Banks, Becky Lynch, and Charlotte. So go ahead and hit us up on Twitter with the hashtag PWF Empire and let us know what you think. Who would be the person to get the boot? Who would be the person to be pushed to the top of your company, and who needs a little work? Push, repackage, release.
I'd be really interested to see different perspectives on this. Like, I know we both said the same three, and obviously we had different reasonings, but I'd like to see even different perspectives. So I hope you guys, I'm not saying have a different opinion than us. I'm just saying I hope we get like a range of who would push, repackage, and release, because this is a really interesting concept.
It's going to be tough, though, because I think that people are like, well, she is Ric Flair's daughter, so yeah, we got to keep her around. I think that 9 times out of 10, Becky Lynch is going to be the person released, though. And it's not saying that she's bad. It's just that this is why I like push, repackage, release so much, is because you have great people and just one of them has to go.
Yeah, exactly. It's tough because, again, all three can bring a lot to the table for women's wrestling, no question about it. So, and I look forward to some of the ones in the future that are probably even more challenging. Oh yes,
I am so glad I came up with this idea for that one, for this one, because the next push, repackage, release we do, man.
Oh yeah, can't wait.
I'm like crying inside just thinking about it right now. I still haven't made up my mind yet, but we'll talk about that in. You guys go ahead and press pause on that one, and we'll play that one at another time. But I wanted to take out a little bit of time to talk about Lucha Underground. It's actually on right now, the second week of Ultima Lucha, and I can't watch because I'm a little busy right now. But I did check out last week's show after my power went out, and I have to say it was an amazing show from top to bottom, we had a match on there. I believe it was a Falls Count Anywhere between Cousin Mac and the Machine Cage. That was a great Falls Count Anywhere match. You had a lot of throwbacks in that match. One very nice spot where we were reminded of, you know, a big star in WWE history. You know, he was around during the Attitude Era, maybe a little bit, you know, just a little bit there. But yeah, that was a really ball to the wall match. You had Trios Championship with one of my favorite acts in wrestling as a whole, Team Havoc with Angelico, Ivelisse, and Son of Havoc. That was, I'm not even going to tell you guys about that match. Like, you actually have to watch Lucha Underground a little bit, get familiar with the two teams in the match to understand my feelings. If you actually do watch Lucha Underground, I'm pretty sure you're on the same wavelength with me and you have the same outlook on that match. But yeah, we had the main event of that show. It was Drago versus Hernandez in a Believers Backlash match, where basically it was like a lumberjack match, where if you got thrown over the ropes, you had a bunch of fans around the ring waiting with belts to beat the shit out of you. And that was that added up to some interesting stuff. And what's happening on the show tonight is they have this championship. It's called the Gift of the Gods Championship, and I think that it's very innovative, and I love it because you have these medallions that everyone is fighting for. There are 7 medallions, and then once all of the 7 medallions are won by 7 competitors, then you have the Gift of the Gods match, and if you win that match, you actually get a shot at the Lucha Underground Championship. And it's kind of like Money in the Bank, but it works a little differently. Like, you can do it any place, anytime, anywhere, but the thing is, the authority figure in Lucha Underground, he's like, hey, you need to give me a week's notice because I want to make some fucking money off of this. If we're going to have a championship match, I don't want to do it based off of shock value. I want to make some fucking money off of this. So I thought that was cool. Also, they do this thing where if you don't cash it in a certain amount of time, you'll be forced to defend it. So I thought that was all cool. So I'll be looking at that match right after I get off of here and finishing up with the season finale of Lucha Underground. Unfortunately, this is the last episode for the first season, but I'm crossing my fingers hoping that we get to season 2. And once again, I will repeat, if you have not been watching Lucha Underground, please go out of your way to find that show because it is by far the best pro wrestling show on TV, period. So we're going to go ahead and close out this show, PWF Empire Live, with The Swerve. We are going to pick a wrestling news story out of the headlines this week and either turn face on that, which will elicit praise, or bring out our inner heel. Evan, what do you got?
You know, honestly, there's not a whole lot of great news stories going on that I saw from this week, because I'm not really a dirt sheet aficionado, I guess you could say. I don't pay too much mind to dirt sheets on a consistent basis. But I just read a little bit ago before the show that they're going to be, I guess, attempting to once again at SummerSlam have the Triple Threat Intercontinental Championship match between Ryback, Miz, and The Big Show. And I can't help but turn heel on that and say, why? Why do you have to kill us with that match after we got a surprise, a Christmas gift-esque surprise at Battleground by not having to witness that match? It's not on Ryback. It's not even on any of the real competitors' backs, like themselves. Just the combination of the three. And the feud now has kind of fallen off the face of the earth the last 2-3 weeks. I have to remind myself that Ryback's the IC champion because they're not even doing anything with him while he's not, while he's hurt. They're not even having any types of like home interviews or anything that on his recovery and things like that that they could be utilizing to at least keep the IC title and Ryback more relevant. Even though he still gets good reactions, it would be nice to at least hear updates on him and things like that. So yeah, I can't help but turn heel on the idea of that damn match still happening. God.
You know what? At this time, I'm going to share a little personal struggle with you guys. I'm going to get real personal. This isn't Jay talking to you right now. This is actually Brian, because I've been going through some things, and there's one person that's causing me to go through these things, and that person is Dana Brooke down in NXT. So as you guys know, if you've been watching Monday Night Raw, you see the Divas Revolution. It's heating up. It's on fire right now. And you have to expect at some point that Sasha Banks, Charlotte, Becky Lynch, the holy trinity of the women's division down in NXT, they're going to move up to the main roster permanently, and there will be people who have to move into their places and take over down in NXT. And Dana Brooke declared on this on last week's episode of NXT that she was going to be that person. And I just want to go ahead and play a clip from her.
Charlotte, you're lucky you're on Raw. Because tonight on NXT, I will be serving her an eviction notice that the women's division of NXT will be taken over by the Total Diva.
Guys, that just hurt my heart right there. Just the thought of Dana Brooke taking over the women's division in NXT. And you know what? It hurt my heart so much that I honestly don't even have any words to say. I'm at a loss for words right now. So I'm going to let Kim Kardashian talk for me. And she's going to say everything that I want to say in this moment. So,
if you know how I feel, why would you say that? Like, you put me in such an uncomfortable situation. Like, you know I'm not happy. You know I'm trying to see if it'll work out here, and I know that it's not.
I'm trying to see if a women's division without Charlotte, Becky Lynch, and Sasha Banks is going to work. But with Dana Brooke saying that she's going to take over, I know it's not. So I have to turn heel on Dana Brooke.
I mean, solving your Dana Brooke issues with Kim K, man, whoa. That's a serious issue then. If Kim Kardashian is your solution, whoa. Man,
sorry
that is
to
one
end on such a somber note, guys, but yeah.
Wow, this is a really rough day in the history of PWF Empire Live.
You know what? I'm not even turning heel. I'm just turning off. Like, turning off the camera, turning off the show.
Throwing your TV out the window.
No, I have to watch Ultima Lucha. So
oh, yeah, okay. Keep it for that, then after, toss it and proceed to toss.
That'll brighten up my spirits a little bit. So I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to go watch Ultima Lucha. Thank you guys for tuning in to PWF Empire Live. We'll be back here next week, same place, same time, pwfempire.com, Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, and hopefully you'll join us there as well. So thank you, Evan, for joining me on the show tonight, and thank you guys for tuning in. We'll catch you on the flip side. Peace out.